So welcome back to this next series of our Introduction to ActualRP8 mobile prototyping course. So we're going to be looking at dynamic panel, understanding dynamic panel, the uses. We're going to be very brief in this introduction of the dynamic panel as well, because deep down when we start prototyping our mobile app, we're going to see the uses and the relevance of dynamic panel and also the appropriate use for it. Sometimes we don't necessarily need to use dynamic panel for everything, but there are some particular things that we would need to do that dynamic panel will be better suited for. What I mean by that is we're going to be doing some interactions and we're going to be making some text changes, some animation and things like that. Once we are doing this, we will be looking at the best way to use dynamic panel. So we would not be using dynamic panel to change maybe text or something like that, only unless it's important or absolutely no other way of doing it. So if we need to change the color from black to red or something, we wouldn't necessarily have to convert to dynamic panel. But if we need to display something multiple times but with different kind of state or version, then we will be using dynamic panel. An example of where we're going to be using dynamic panel will be an onboarding area. An onboarding page or a screen will be where the user will learn more about the mobile app, so they will know exactly what they are doing. So for example, we will be looking at something like this. So I'm just going to remove this for now. And I'm going to say, let's say dynamic panel, we have like a banner. We can just grab a dynamic panel, size this dynamic panel. We have it as a dynamic panel, so we can interact with it. We can create different states within this dynamic panel, and we can put different content inside each of the states, so that once we make our condition, our case here, we can say, okay, once we click on a button, we want the second state of this dynamic panel to show. Something like that. We're going to be doing it, and it's going to be fun because you can actually use dynamic panel to do a lot of things that would not, have been possible if dynamic panel was not a feature with ActualRP. So we will look at this dynamic panel. For example, we have the dynamic panel. You're going to name the dynamic panel, give it a name, best practice, and we can have like different states. So if I have like 5 states, for example, I can go into the first state. There is nothing here, so I can drop anything I want to drop. So I can drop this on the first state. Then I can go to the second state. I can drop an image. And I can go to the third state. I can drop a button here. And I can go to the fourth state. I can drop a paragraph. And I can go to the fifth state. I can just drop a box widget, and maybe an hover shape. Now, an eclipse. So we have this, and if we go back to our page where we have the dynamic panel, which is the main page. So I'll get rid of these pages we did last time. We have this dynamic panel. We could animate this based on what we have here. So we have things like on click, on panel state change, on drag and start, on drag and drop, on swipe left, swipe right. We can do so many things, and we can display each of these states based on this event that we've selected. So we can display any of these states. We can set this as a default state. We can show this state first, and when we show this state first, we can hide another state. So it's really very broad on how we can make use of dynamic panel. So once we start our main prototyping of this introduction to ActualRP8 mobile prototyping course, then we will be seeing the uses and the benefits of a dynamic panel. So I will see you in the next tutorial which I think is going to be the first main screen that we're going to be designing completely for our mobile application. If you have any question, you can drop me an email and I'll be glad to reply back to you. And I hope to see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.